And welcome in everybody to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all for joining us here on this Wednesday evening, or if it's one of your favorite places to listen to podcasts later on in the week. It is DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelcey, who is fresh off the road, looking as dapper as he's ever looked on this show, minus the one time we did an award show. How's it going, sir?
Doing good. Yeah, dapper. That's cold hearted, bro. I know I've worn polos at least and button up shirts on here before. I don't know.
Well,
Can't
I
be that
rest my
crazy.
case. We're stretching it really thin, but it's start of March. We got a lot of busy stuff coming up in sports from March Madness later on and everything in between. And for once, it's not just DJ joined, as always, by my co-host, as we do have a special guest join us, which is a good way to lead us into our first segment, which is the tip-off brought to you by our good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code BLAYUPSports. Get yourself $20 off your first set of tickets for any sporting event, concert, or really just anything that requires tickets. Get yourself $20 off. And joining us today is an ESPN alum, a senior researcher, one of the smartest sports guys I know, who also is a, for better and for worse, diehard Philadelphia sports fan. Kevin, welcome to the show, friend.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Talk about some baseball and some UFC. It's going to be a good show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a blast. And for once, we got somebody who knows data more than I do on here. So it's for the nerds. They're going to absolutely love this.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but we'll try our best to bring some data into the show.
It's definitely going to be fun. And you mentioned too, we're going to talk about baseball. Spring training is underway. A handful of games under the belt. And before we get too far into it, spring training, is it better than NFL preseason and NBA preseason? Is it like the best preseason that we have, would you guys say? Or do you think maybe one of the other ones has a beat?
It's my favorite. People actually play, so it's always going to be my favorite.
That's fair. What do you think, Kevin? Do you think spring training a little bit better than NFL and NBA preseason, or are you leaning the other way?
I think it depends on where your team's at. For a rebuilding team, I think spring training is like a really fun activity to watch. You get to see some of the upcoming prospects, see how they play against major league talent, and really shows how the guy gets hot, you might make the opening day roster. So if you're looking at a team towards the bottom, then it's cool. But a lot of times for the teams at the top, you don't really get to see all the greatest talent playing every day. So I feel like it really depends.
Absolutely. I will say it is fun when you sign somebody like Juan Soto to the biggest contract in MLB history, and his first at bat is a 400-foot home run. That's definitely a good way to start things off if you're a Mets fan, even though you had a decent season last year. But baseball season is right around the corner. Talked about if your team is pretty good, then it could be fun. So we're going to go through some teams that are near and dear to most of our hearts. We're going to start with Kevin's Philadelphia Phillies. A bit of a rough start to spring training right now, some rough ones. So Kevin, we're going to let you lead the way. How are we feeling about the Phillies? We like what they did in the offseason. What's our outlook for them?
I think when you look at the Phillies end of last season and the season before, they have the roster to compete and really go deep into October. It's really going to come down to, baseball's a tough sport when it comes the end of the season. It comes down to how you do in October. So, I think they had one of the best regular seasons they've had in 20, 25 years. So why not bring back a very similar roster? They had some buy low, some low risk, high reward acquisitions with Max Kepler and Jesus Luzardo. Kepler with, 2019 got some MVP votes, see if maybe he can come back and be an all-star, or, even just, he's really not going to be asked to do much in that lineup. He's coming off a rough year, but then they got Jesus Luzardo in a trade. Last year, kind of rough, but I think if he can fill in that fifth starter role before their top prospect Andrew Painter comes up, then I think they're in good position. I will say the Braves are gonna be back. The Nats are on the rise, and the Mets are the Mets. They went out and got Juan Soto, so the NL East is going to be quite competitive. Maybe the most competitive division in baseball. So. I like what they did this offseason. They kind of filled some holes, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to 5-7 game series in October, and I think that team is built to get through that.
Absolutely. And Kelcey, you are known as the biggest Bryce Harper hater. Oh, that I know in my entire lifetime. So what are you thinking for the Phillies? Do they turn it around, or is this the anti-Bryce Harper bandwagon in full swing?
Yeah, I'm not going to be anti-Bryce Harper right now. I think the Phillies roster is one of the most interesting rosters in baseball because it's that weird mix of really talented players but old and young upcoming players who just have to prove themselves. And that's the part with the Phillies, like having the old heads involved. It's going to be a matter of, as Kevin you mentioned, your top prospect is just waiting to come up. he's waiting to be there. A very Chris Bryant-esque, right? You just need to get him in the league and see what happens. Obviously, talking pitcher versus hitter here. But it's a situation where you're just waiting on that guy to step up and come in and see if he can impact the team and the roster. And he obviously is a fifth starter to begin with, but does he work his way into the middle of the rotation going into next season? That's always a possibility. Or even going into the postseason, is he that third starter for the postseason roster, with most teams do nowadays for that five game series? So the Phillies are going to be interesting. I think in the East, there's a lot of opportunity because we know the Braves are coming back healthy. The Mets are what they are. They spent so much money. You have opportunity. You just have to prove it. You don't have to worry about the Marlins at least. But other than that, you just have to actually be able to prove that you guys are still that team. And I think given Phillies' recent sports history, I do expect something good from the Phillies. I don't know. I still have a bias against some of the Phillies players, but you know what? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but I do think it's a 50-50 one way or the other this season is kind of going to be how it goes. And I think it's going to start not April. I think this team really is going to be set up in June. If they can get through June into that All-Star break on a hot run, this team is very interesting to watch down the stretch.
Absolutely. I look at them and I think what's very interesting is everything you all mentioned, like it's kind of a 50-50. They're a better team than last year. Incredible rotation. Bullpen could use we'll see, but the incredible players across the board. They're built to beat the Dodgers, who are like a plus 100 favorite to win the World Series this year. It's everybody else that worries me with them. If they can avoid everyone else and if they could do the opposite and just play the Dodgers right away, I like their chances. Whereas everyone else is trying to avoid that buzzsaw. It's ass backwards, but it just kind of works. Like they need to fight the buzzsaw, then they need to fight the dragon, then go fight the little minions, not the minions and the dragon. They have to take the long way. But we got to now talk about the team close and near and dear to Kelcey's heart, one of his few teams that doesn't let him down on a regular basis, the San Francisco Giants. Kelcey, I'm letting you lead the way on here. How are we feeling about your Giants? Do you think this is the year they kind of resume back to their World Series winning ways, or at this point you just set you got 3 in your lifetime?
Well, I've said it on the show many times. I'm good with sports titles for a long time. 3 in 5 years was fantastic. But I will say I think it's time for the Giants to there's no nice way to say this, shit or get off the pot. It's figure it out. You're rudderless right now. You have so many decisions you need to make. What are you going to do with Matt Chapman long term? What are you doing with Patrick Bailey? What are you doing with Willie Adames? What are you doing with Yastrzemski? These 4 guys are guys that you thought would be the core of this team to lead a revival. You're in the West. There's the Dodgers, right? The big bad Dodgers. We all know what that is. $1 billion roster. It's just, what can you do this season to prove you're on the right track is where I'm concerned. You got older. You brought in Justin Verlander. Is that great? I don't know. The dude got wheeled out in a wheelchair during spring training when pitchers and catchers rolled out. So I don't know how I feel about this. I do like Justin Verlander career-wise, but what does that mean long-term? Robbie Ray, who is my age, so in his 30s, what does that mean? I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Ryan Walker being the closer seems like a positive, but really at the end of the day, I'm questioning how this team can figure it out. Like really just figure it out. Buster Posey in the front office now, making seemingly the good moves to get this team going forward. But what does it mean on the field? Obviously Jung-Hoo Lee coming in, playing center field from day one should be interesting. But right now, this team is a minus 275 favorite to miss the playoffs, meaning odds on not even going to happen. Obviously, in that division, it is what it is. Diamondbacks, you got to climb over. You got to climb over the Dodgers and probably the Padres still, too. As long as they're all healthy, you definitely have to climb over that. And let's not forget the Rockies are still out there because unlike the Marlins in the East, the Rockies can at least do something here and there. I'm just expecting them to try to figure it out. That's what I want to see happening because now you have the front office in place that you think is going to lead the next charge. Just figure it out now.
So worse winning percentage than the New York Football Giants, or at least can they get over that at least?
That's cold. We'll see.
Okay, you know what?
It's probably going to be a losing record by the end of the season. I hate to say that. There's 162 games, but it's probably a losing record by the end of the season.
All right. Well, Kevin, what are your thoughts on the Giants? The over-under is set at 80.5 games. So, like I said, not looking too high.
See, I would hammer the under here. I mean, you look at the division. I mean, outside of the Rockies, right? Who's worse in the division talent-wise? From over 162 games, talent wins out, and that division is really tough. I mean, we just talked about the NL East. I'm seeing why they're, minus 275 to miss the playoffs. I mean, you look at the NL East, you look at the NL West, there's only a certain amount of spots to get in the playoffs. I mean, it's gonna be really hard for them to win 80 games. They win eight. I don't think they won 80 games last year. And the big pull this year was Justin Verlander, who's older than LeBron. So I'm not sold on the Giants. Unfortunately, I feel like they're in a very similar spot to the Phillies in the early 2010s, where aging roster, still trying to compete, but GM just doesn't know when to call it quits and kind of sell the farm. So we'll see with the Giants, but it's a dog eat dog world in the NL. So
it's not going to be a giant dog eating. It's going to be a giant dog getting ate by the sounds of it. So to the one team that we all support here, that is definitely worse than the Giants. We're going to get this one quick, so I don't want to talk about it. We're going to look at the St. Louis Cardinals. It is not looking good. They're so bad that Jordan Walker is injured by stepping on a sprinkler, and now his knee's wrecked. That's how big of a mess that they are right now. So I'm just going to keep mine short and sweet. Then I'll go ahead and let Kevin go first. But I think the Cardinals are going to stink. And I think in that division, they're just going to stink. I'm going to keep it short. Kevin, do you think there's any chance the Cardinals redeem themselves, or is this going to be embarrassing like I think it's going to be?
Embarrassing is tough, but I do think it's gonna be a rough year. The Nolan Arenado situation is going to continue to be a distraction. That you lose Paul Goldschmidt, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Andrew Kittredge. Like you really depleted the roster. Your best player wants out. I mean, I think they're going to end up selling Nolan Arenado off before the deadline, and I think if you're the Cardinals, this is not the year.
And there are only 7 teams with worse odds than them for over-under at 77.5 or 76, depending on which book you have. So it's not looking too good. Kelcey, we're just going to pile on the Cardinals at this point. Like, we're taking Arizona Cardinals over St. Louis Cardinals right now, I'm feeling.
Yeah, I'd take Kyler Murray and his Mr. Krabs legs over pretty much everything on the Cardinals right now. It's interesting when you look at the odds to get, like, percentages to get in the playoffs. They have a single-digit percentage to get in the playoffs, and they're still projected third in the Central. Wild to see. Like, it's a less than 10% chance, and you're still third in the Central. Now, the Central is NL, AL Central is like the weakest divisions right now in baseball. There's a chance they can sneak in if all of a sudden their, pipeline turns out some unknown prospects that just diamonds in the rough that turned into something. With the way baseball is, that doesn't happen often. They're pretty well vetted before they get to the majors. But, yeah, I don't want to, be completely negative, but I at least feel better being a Giants fan that you're a Cardinals fan. Let me put it that way. That's
what I'm here to do. I'm the emotional support animal of the place. Just be me. I'm the dead horse too. But you know what? We're going to stop talking about mediocre teams and talk about teams that could be surprisingly good. So we're going to go and look at a sleeper team. We think maybe someone who didn't make the playoffs last year that could pop in and surprise somebody this year. So I'll go ahead and lead the way on this one. I think the Chicago Cubs could be a surprising team that makes a little bit of run. I like the trade for Kyle Tucker. I think that automatically makes you better. He's still one of the best outfielders in the game. I think he's going to help that batting lineup, which was, I think, 20th in homers or something like that. There was not a lot of firepower. So he's going to up the firepower. The rotation's going to get a little bit stronger. The NL Central, like we could just talk about, is not very good. Like, there's plenty of room to get got, and I think they could capitalize on it. If it comes to a wild card spot, that might be tougher. As we mentioned, there's other teams in there, but I think they finished with 83 wins in the past couple of years. I think they can climb up to maybe 90 this year. I think they have a chance to get 90, 95, give or take. So I'm going to say the Cubs. I think they could be a surprise team to sneak in there.
All right. Kevin, we'll have you go second.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the Cubs are just interesting. First off, I mean, they sell off Cody Bellinger, but then they sign Kyle Tucker. They're kind of going in two directions. 90, 95 wins would be pretty interesting. But my team's the Rangers. Finished 6 games under 500 last year, the year after winning the World Series. Disappointing year. With that talented of a roster, I just don't know how they don't win 85, 86 games this year. So, I haven't looked at what the sports books have their over under at, but I would take the over. I mean, last year I think was, I just think they're going to be way better this year.
Absolutely. They are set at 85. So, they get 86. They got your over under right there. So, Kelcey, who's your dark horse waiting in the wings? And you can't say the Giants.
No, it's not going to be the Giants. But I am going to go with a team that the most famous Giant probably ever played, or most famous ever Giant, one of the most famous Giants played for. That is the Paul Skeens-led Pittsburgh Pirates. As a pitcher, Paul Skeens is everything you could dream for a pitcher today. And he's a workhorse. He has the same arm slot for every pitch, and it's stupid. And the tunnel he drives gives hitters is the most annoying thing I could ever imagine if you were a hitter. Imagine every pitch coming at you from the same angle. You don't know what's about to happen. And by the way, it's plus 90. That's tough. Now you add in the fact O'Neal Cruz is healthy. Andrew McCutchen has been in this locker room now for a full season, going into his second season, who is at this point in his career a locker room guy. Brian Reynolds, see if he can ever turn into something. Wong Heng Bei, if he can actually be useful this season, more so than last year, that's a big improvement. I also think Brian Hayes is a guy who's always been that, oh, he's the next guy for the Pirates. He's the next one to go somewhere. He's always been injured. Something's happened. Can he stay healthy this season? And if so, this Pirates team is the team that, yes, they always get shipped off at the end of the season for parts, but can they at least make a playoff run? I think there's a chance. And right now, sitting at 19% to make the playoffs, I don't know there's a more sleeper option for me. But again, they're in the Central. That's what makes it an opportunity for me, is I think they have an opportunity in the Central to at least win the division, because you just have to beat the Cubs and the Brewers, and that's the tough part. Can you beat them? Can you beat the Cardinals, who we just talked about, third right now projected? Yeah, should be able to. But then also Joey Bart at catcher, I think is DH catcher. I think those are opportunities for the Pirates. They're there. And can the Pirates finally stop being a piecemeal franchise, and can they actually be a franchise that goes to the playoffs again? That's going to be the question. But I think for me, they're my sleeper for the year. Why not? Let's see if Pittsburgh can do something.
So what do you think their ceiling is?
Oh, ceiling. Okay, so ceiling for them. Hang on, sorry. Moving it around. All right. Ceiling for the Pirates is, if I'm giving him a seed, I'm going to say third in the NL. So I think they can win the Central. I think that's their peak ceiling, and I think maybe, just maybe, you get past the wild card team. That's it would have to take a lot of positives for that team, like a breakdown from the Mets. In let's say that's the team that gets through in the wild card round, and they face off against the Pirates. They would take a breakdown from the Mets or whoever they face in that playoff series. But I can see them easily winning 3 out of a 7-game series, if not potentially sneaking 4 out, especially if they have home field. I think that's always an opportunity, because Pittsburgh's not an easy place to play in if you're opposing teams anymore.
Not at all. It smells a little bit. There's a lot going on there. I mean, plus this is clearly a little bit of a Livy Dune fan support from that pick too. But
don't even get me started on the kid that won that card and didn't even take talk about a kid getting stranded out of everything. Good Lord. All right, I got to ask before we go any further. Kevin, I need you to give me this answer. If you were the guy that pulled the 1-of-1 Paul Skeens card, do you take all of the deals, or do you auction it off yourself? What do you do?
I'd probably auction it off. The deal, is only really great if you're, taking advantage of those season tickets and going to a bunch of games. I think financially you can make a lot more money in the auction side of it. So I believe that's what the kid did, right?
Yeah. Kid ended up doing it. Now let's pivot it this way. You're a 13-year-old kid. What do you end up choosing? Yeah, knowing what Livy Dunn is in the social media world.
That's cheating.
I know, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, that's a dad winning the argument for the son.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you throw Livy Dunn and the suite and the season tickets all together, and you're 13 years old and you're a big Pirates fan. Maybe you sway me, but 28-year-old me is taking that right to the auction.
Yeah, lifetime season tickets. It's tough.
It's like my grown self that has bills and stuff to pay. Money, please. Like, I'll buy season tickets and wipe the tears away with what's left. But we've talked about one side of the coin. We got to flip to the other side now. Teams who might have been very good last year, a playoff team, they're destined to just drop off. That is destined to not happen. I'll keep mine quick first as well. I think the Detroit Tigers are in position to miss the playoffs this year. They had a ridiculous run down the stretch. It was like 30-10 or something ridiculous like that to get into the playoffs. Skubal basically up until Game 5 of the ALDS was absolute money. He was was the Cy Young candidate for a reason. They got on a really, really hot stretch down the go, but I don't think they did enough to improve. And I think the AL Central is relatively competitive still with the Guardians, the Royals, the Twins. I think it's going to be a tough go. So I'm going to say the Tigers are destined to drop off, even if it's not a lot by wins, just enough to kind of miss the playoffs. Like, I don't think they're going to go 31-12 down the stretch to jump into a playoff spot again. So I'm going to take the Tigers to just slip out. Kevin, who do we think is your destined to drop off team?
So drop off. It's all about expectations, right? So I'm going to go with the Dodgers. The expectations are a World Series. If they don't win a World Series, I would consider that a drop off. So that's kind of where I went with this question. I mean, you look at all the money they've spent, how talented that roster is, and we all know baseball. It's a fluky sport. It's whoever gets hot in October, and more than likely they're not going to win the World Series. So that's why I'm going with the Dodgers. I just don't think it happens this year. I know, they got hot last year. They had the talent. They added even more talent this offseason. But, I mean, expectations of a World Series, that's nearly impossible to live up to year after year after year.
And an over-under set at 103.5. They're basically expecting you to win 2 out of your 3 games at that point. When they lose, it's going to be a catastrophe. And with how many games baseball is, losing streaks are normal. So, Kelcey, are we going to pile on the Dodgers here? That's like your third favorite pastime. Are we going to join in that one, or do you have a different one to jump with?
Let's not kid ourselves. It's my second favorite pastime. Piling on the Cowboys first is number one. Then it's the Dodgers. Always Dodger hate. Beat LA at 24/7. No, I'm not going to pile on them though. I did get my spiel out of the way though, so I could say that no, I'm not going to pile on them. I'm going to the other side of the country. I'm going back to the team I say it takes an epic fail for the Pirates to potentially upset. That's the Mets. I think the Mets, given how much money they spend, they're expected to win the playoffs. Right now, 63% odds that they make the playoffs. They have the 6th best win percentage for the World Series. It's at 4.3, which is not great. But considering they're in the East, we just talked about it. You have the Mets. You have the Braves coming back. You have the Phillies. You might have a team pop into the wild card that you have to fight with in the Diamondbacks. Or potentially the Dodgers if they just completely screw up. And then you have the Padres all fighting for those wild card spots. There's a potential that the Mets is that odd team out that doesn't make the playoffs. And that if you spend this much money as the Mets did, you have to make a playoffs because you did last year. Now you have to go further than you did last year. Considering you brought in Juan Soto, you have to do more. And if you don't do it, it's a drop off. I'm with Kevin. Like you got to do more than what you're expected if you're gonna, unless you drop off. And I think the Mets for me are that team that I think is the odd man out in a lot of situations. And that's my drop off.
It's interesting because the last time the Mets had paid so much money, they stunk. And then they basically had to get all that money off their books, and then they actually started winning again. So I don't think they've learned. They're the New York team that can't just buy their way through it. They have to do it the hard way, unfortunately. And so there's a very likely chance, unless Juan Soto is going to hit 40 of those 400-foot bombs this year, it's not looking great otherwise. So.
And another 385-foot bombs.
And get on base every single time, basically. It's a rough go, but that's going to do it for the baseball talk now. That is going to go into transition us into the second part of the show. That is the main event, and for the main event, it is properly named today as we are talking all about fisticuffs. We are heading to the Octagon with a big UFC fight pay-per-view up on the docket for this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Something's happening. Hang on. There we go. All right. Yeah. No. So, guys, you guys have a lot of fights to look forward to. Obviously, not the biggest fight fan in the world. I do enjoy me some fisticuffs from the standpoint of a completely neutral, no bias whatsoever fan. So, guys, I have some questions for you coming up for UFC 313. So, co-main event, looking now at it. Right now, is it disrespectful to have Justin Gaethje as an underdog to a guy he already beat coming in on short notice? Obviously, this fight being short notice. What are you guys' thoughts? Kevin, I'm going to start it with you.
Yeah, I do think it is. I think a lot of people think that the Max Holloway knockout on Justin Gaethje is going to set him back, and you've seen it with some other guys. Volkanovski's the obvious one there. Once he was knocked out, he was he got knocked out again, and kind of hasn't been the same since. It's funny I say that as he's about to fight for a title once again, but we'll talk about our predictions later. I don't see Justin Gaethje. I don't see Justin Gaethje being knocked out in this fight. I think, I think the odds are right where they probably should be, and I understand why, but I'm not betting against Justin Gaethje. There's no shot.
Okay, so you're okay with him still being an underdog, but it's less
I think
real underdog stakes.
It's great for all of us. I mean, if you guys are also taking Gaethje, there's more value on his side right now for people that are believing in him. So, I like that he's an underdog for my own personal gain.
All right, DJ, let's ask you the same question, but you also have to answer the question: are you okay with the underdog situation?
I am betting on Justin Gaethje when I'm taking those plus odds on Justin Gaethje. That is locked and loaded. I am simply waiting. It is happening. I know that we talked, as Kevin just mentioned, last time we saw Justin Gaethje, his face was dead on the ground and he was twitching a little bit after what Max Holloway did to him. It was one of the most brutal knockouts of the year. It's not like that's unusual for Justin Gaethje. He is not necessarily an intelligent fighter as it is. He is a charge forward bull with his horns cut off. Last time he fought Fiziev, they both had a full camp, and he was coming off a first-round loss to Charles Oliveira and had lost 2 of his last 3 at that point. So it's not like the situation is that much different. And in that first fight, Fiziev was a big favorite as well. So I do think Justin Gaethje is going to go in there. I think I understand Fiziev being the favorite from that reason, but it's also not forget Fiziev has lost 2 in a row, including that loss to Gaethje, and then he lost to Gamrot in his last fight by KO. We're grab the hammers, boys. Grab the jackhammers. We are hammering the Gaethje money line. Like it's going down. There's no argument about it. Gaethje, I think he's going to find a way to win it. I'm still surprised that they gave Gaethje plus odds. I know it's only plus 125 or so, but we're hammering it home. We're taking it.
Well, it's also interesting. Sorry, I mean to cut you off there.
Go for it, boss.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy that he's an underdog considering no one wanted to fight him. All of the top guys said no to this fight, and now he's an underdog somehow. No one wants to fight him in the division, and just because I mean, do we think it's because he's coming off the knockout loss? That's the reason he's the underdog here. But I don't know. It's crazy to me that all the top guys didn't want to fight the guy, and now he's an underdog, which is I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't get it. You would think the odds makers are usually spot on with this sort of thing. Like they usually are pretty spot on with this, but I think they might have misfired here. And if Fiziev gets him out of there, I apologize in advance to everybody who followed me in the hammering the Justin Gaethje line. But he's still in the top 5 for a reason. It's not like he has gone on an epic losing streak. He was the number 1 contender until he took the Max Holloway fight for fun. Like there was nothing on the line for him. He should have said nah. But when you put BMF belt and scrap on there, Justin Gaethje's kind of Homer Simpson. He's going to do it. Like I don't know. I think it almost feels like y'all must have forgot. And this happened in April. It's almost been a year. So he's had time to recover and bounce back. So I don't know. I think it's silly, but that's just me.
Yeah. So Kev, I'm going to ask you one more. Well, just confirm. You are picking Gaethje over Fiziev. Yeah.
I am. I actually think he knocks him out.
Okay. All right. DJ, knockout as well?
Late knockout like the first one. Fiziev gets a little bit early, but Gaethje weathers the storm and KOs him. Or he sprints right into Gaethje's fist out of the gate.
If there's one thing you know about Justin Gaethje, it's going to be an active fight. So fist will be flying. It'll be a good one.
There'll be a bonus somewhere involved.
Yeah, exactly. So one way or another, this might be fight of the night, knockout of the night, maybe knockout of the year if Gaethje gets his way. You never know. Calling it now. Just kidding. I'm not going to call it now. I'll leave that for you guys. All right, moving over to the main event. Big question is, can Alex Pereira keep doing all these side quests and nuke people in the cage? I don't know, obviously, what your guys' thoughts are on this, but DJ, I'm going to start off with you on this one.
So the funniest thing with Alex Pereira is he is the king of side quests. It's like he's playing GTA 5 in real life. Like every time you jump on any sort of UFC, MMA, social media, he's off randomly doing his chama dance with like 17 like ring girls like overseas, and then he's sitting in an event, and then he's having a beer with somebody. Like he's always off doing something every other day. It's like, is he actually training? Then he'll post a training montage, and then he goes in there and he nukes guys in the first round, or he throws absolute bombs. I don't get it, and it's so hilarious. So I do think he can keep getting away with it because he has so far. And I almost feel like he does it just to mess with people. Like he takes a short clip, someone posts it online, and then he goes back to training. So Alex Pereira can't keep getting away with it, and it's just hilarious that he's playing Grand Theft Auto. He's like a real-life Mandalorian out there, just doing all these random things in between fights. He is a meme in himself, but in a good way.
All right. Kevin, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex is going to continue to win as long as he doesn't move up to heavyweight. I think that's where he can't keep it up any longer. If he fights a Tom Aspinall or John Jones, I think that's kind of the end of him being able to keep it up. But in the light heavyweight division, he's run through everyone. Um, Ankalaev, I don't know why he's giving him motivation by continuing to talk on social media, but he has, and I think Alex comes out motivated, and it's a scary sight to see Alex motivated. I mean, you saw it in his fights with Izzy and some of his other conquests in the UFC. So you know, uh, it's hard to answer the question, like, will he keep it up? Because I don't know what he's trying to do after this fight, but I think this week he does keep it up. Moving forward, if Dana White's interested in moving him up to heavyweight, then maybe it ends.
I do have a side question for this because you mentioned Izzy here in this one. Obviously, you mentioned we talked about side quest here. Izzy might be the king of side quests beforehand, and I gotta ask. Obviously, the guy's career just kind of side up. Do you think if Pereira falls off this weekend, let's say he doesn't win, do you think that there's a lasting impact here? Obviously, the social media can be a distraction. We all know that when it comes to athletics, but in this situation, we saw it with Izzy where maybe it got too much on his plate with what he was trying to do. Is this something you see long term that maybe if Pereira can't keep it up this weekend, it might be a long term lasting effect in his career? Kevin, what do you think?
No, I think I'm very interested. I mean, if he loses this weekend, I think you almost have to auto rematch him and Ankalaev, which I'm guessing the UFC does not want. But it would be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he loses, would he go down to 185 and fight DDP for the title again? I don't know. I know he's talked about how hard that weight cut is, and you see how big he is as a human being. But there's been some back and forth between those two guys. I know he has a thing for the 185 pound division. So I actually think it'll cause some chaos. I don't like going back to what I just said. That I don't think the UFC wants Ankalaev as their light heavyweight champion, but I think it could bring a nice DDP fight if he loses.
Okay, DJ, same question. Obviously, if he loses, what are your thoughts?
He is almost 40, so I do think once he loses, it will slow down a little bit. Like, you can't keep getting away with it in that regard. But at the same time, you can't really bet against him at this point. So I would say if he does lose, I would expect an immediate rematch if he would take it. But then otherwise, I agree. I think the fight with DDP, either at 205 or 185, if he wants to go through that miserable 6-month weight cut, because I'm pretty sure his head alone weighs 185 pounds. So I don't know how he makes 185. But I think he'll go on some fun side quests, I think, for sure. Or if he loses, maybe goes up to heavyweight and fights maybe not the top guys, but maybe takes a number one contender fight with Cyril Gane or something like that. So whatever it is, we're gonna in like 3 weeks we're gonna be like, Alex Pereira's at it again. Somehow he's gonna end up back just on it. We're gonna just see him on randomly dancing it somewhere overseas. They're just doing his little Shama dance, 1 step, 2 step, left and right. So he'll be out there once again. I feel like that's his. I don't understand it. He doesn't make sense to me, but in the best way.
Yeah, 40-year-olds on social media. Who does that anymore? Really? I don't know. No, anyways, look to the other side of the fight, the other side of the ring in this one. Ankalaev, what does he have to do in this one to get it done? Obviously, we just talked about what happens if Pereira loses, but Ankalaev needs to win, right? He needs to be the guy that wins. What does he have to do to get the victory? Kevin, I'm gonna start with you.
I think it's the thing that everyone's been saying that Alex Pereira struggles with, and it's wrestling. I think he needs to take Alex Pereira down and make this a fight on the ground. I think if he's unable to do that, it's Alex's game to piece him apart on the feet. Not a lot of guys have been successful or even tried to take Alex down, but we'll see this week. I think that's kind of got to be Ankalaev's path to victory.
Yeah, DJ, same thought.
What I think is interesting is, like you mentioned, nobody even tries to take Alex down. Like, no one really even shoots or even attempts it. They just kind of stare at him like, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, throw hands, die. Like, nobody even really tries to shoot on him anymore, which I think Ankalaev has to at least try. He doesn't have to be successful, but I think if you let Alex get into like that comfortable state where he's just throwing comfortably, it's like a flow state. We saw it at the back end of his fight with Khalil Roundtree, where everything he threw, he was moving, his hands were low. Everything sounded like lightning striking a bottle every time he landed. I think you just got to mix that up. And when someone does shoot on him, Alex tends to kind of freeze there. He already holds his hands kind of low as it is. And he just kind of freezes there and doesn't move like he's trying to stop it. So faking the takedown, then coming with a left hand is something Ankalaev could do really well, especially being southpaw. It does kind of throw off a little bit of the natural movements. So he has very clear paths of victory, but so have a lot of other people. And then Alex stands in front of you and everything goes out the window because he's the most terrifying man once he starts staring into your soul while they're doing the introductions. Like he kills people in the stare down and then it ends up getting worse after that. So I think his key is just making it ugly and mix it up. Don't stand in front of him. Go up, down, like just make it be a moving target and mix things in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, I do want to go back to something, Kevin, you talked about for a second, and we've talked about the business of the UFC a lot on the show. You mentioned that the UFC doesn't want Ankalaev as their champion. Can you give a little more? And DJ, I know you probably have an opinion on this too, but Kevin, I want to start with you on this one because you said it first. Can you give a little more on that?
Yeah, I mean they've dodged giving him a title fight for probably 18 months at this point. They're one of their most famous international stars is the current division champion. Having Ankalaev step in as the champion and Alex no longer being a champion, I think is more where I'm going with it. DJ might have different thoughts, but having Alex as no longer the champ of the light heavyweight division and having a guy that they didn't really want to fight for the title for the last year and a half, I think that's kind of more where I was going with what I was saying.
Okay, DJ, what's your thoughts?
I'm going with the conspiracy theory on this one. I think what they want to do with Alex is if he wins, he's cleared that division already in short notice too. What that does is that there's obviously the negotiations with John Jones and Tom Aspinall going on. Dana White did say that John's fighting this summer. We will see. They say a lot of things. That doesn't mean they come true. I think if Alex wins, though, he's cleared out the division. They have the case in point back. All right, John, if you're not going to do it, we're going to put Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall at heavyweight. There's your heavyweight championship. That fight sells. People get amped. Tom Aspinall gets his chance to be the quote, undisputed heavyweight champion. They tell Jones basically kick rocks at that point. It gives him a little bit of leverage. If Alex loses, who is Tom Aspinall going to fight at heavyweight? Like it's already very thin, but at least you can pull a hat out of the hat with a rabbit out of the hat with Alex Pereira. So I think that is part of it. Plus, on top of it, he's incredibly active. Like he's fought like 4 times in less than 12 months. He destroys people. He sends them into the stratosphere. He's all over social media, like we just talked about too. Like he's exactly what they want from a light heavyweight champion. And then he's funny when he does talk too. So, and he's very active. Never pulls out of fights too. I think he's exactly what they want for a heavyweight champion. So I think that's also has to go with it. On top of they probably just don't like Ankalaev. Like he's not always the most visually pleasing fighter to watch either, which kind of sucks to say, but it's the nature of the business. But I also think Alex Pereira is that good and that much fun, and he sells that well.
Do you think if Alex wins that they're gonna and he wants to move to heavyweight, that the UFC would kind of pull what they did with Ilya and make him vacate the light heavyweight in order to go to heavyweight? Because they've kind of proven over the last year or so, maybe a little bit longer, that they don't want to have title versus title fights because they have pay-per-views they need to fill throughout the year, and that makes it a lot more difficult when 2 champions are fighting each other at the same time. So do you think Alex has to vacate the title if he wants to go to heavyweight after this?
I think they would want that, but if he said I want to hold both of them, he wants to have like that potential with the picture of the 2 belts, they would let him have it because he has saved their so many times. He has a little bit of the look. How many times did I step in on short notice for you, a Nuka guy? Like I destroyed Yuri on short notice. I destroyed Jamal Hill on short notice. I saved UFC 300. I tried to fight Ankalaev last summer, but you guys told me no. Like I tried to fight him 46 days after he KO'd Yuri Prohashka. Like he's done everything. He fought Khalil Roundtree on relatively short notice. Like he's done everything they want. He has a little leverage where I think they'll let him do that, but then he has to give up one of the belts like a week later. Like he's not going to get to be reigning double champ, but he can get the photo op.
Yeah, I think they make him vacate it because I think it's more of a semantics thing, honestly. Like if Ilya goes up and beats Islam, I still consider him a double champion. I mean, he beat Volk. Let's say Volk beats Diego Lopez. He beat Volk decidedly. Like he's a 2-time champ. Whether or not they hold him at the exact same time, I think it's just semantics.
Exactly. I think either way, you're sitting in good standings, and he would have the opportunity to be a 3-time champion on top of that for 3 different weight classes. I think they won't. I think they're really thinking about like, damn, that could be really fun. If John Jones wants to be difficult with us, we could tell him to kick rocks, and this counts as a super fight, even if Alex vacates that title too. I don't think he beats Tom Aspinall. but they could sell it that way. So there's a lot. I don't say there's a lot riding on it, but there's a lot of tinfoil twisting going on in my head right now. If he wins and if they lose, it gets to the point of, all right, John, here's your 40 million. Go fight Tom. Damn it, go do it. Like, we'll give you what you want. So I think everybody wants Alex to win. Personally, for the most part.
Okay. All right. So we pulled the silver caps down on this one. So I appreciate that. Aluminum foil, guys. I'll go cook some chicken after this one with that. But no, honestly, I do think there's a point to having somebody who's a champion who does matter on social media, who is active on social media. Obviously, that is my day job, is marketing. And it's something that every company in the world strives for. They want a face. They want an influencer. They want somebody to go out there and organically promote their product.
Or pay a lot of money for it. Depends on who
it is. He gets paid a couple $1 million for every post. Who cares? But he's organically posting the UFC things, right? And that's, I think, does matter a little bit in the end of the day, at least for the business side of things. And we all know Dana White is nothing but a businessman at the end of the day.
I mean, if you look like a TikTok or any of these social media apps, what blows up? It's highlights, and that's what Alex Pereira brings every time he steps in the ring. Knocks people out, makes these great highlights, and then he goes on social media and does these side conquests. He creates so much good publicity for the UFC, and someone like Ankalaev, who fights to a decision a lot, doesn't really go on these side conquests, not all over social media, kind of quiet. That's not good for a promotion that their whole basis is viewership.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. All right, well, in that case, before I make a bad joke on that one, guys, I need you guys to pick a winner. All right, is it going to be Pereira or is it going to be Ankalaev? Kevin, we'll start with you. Who's your winner for this one?
So I'm going to go Alex by decision. I think Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz a couple years back fought to a draw. When Alex fought Blachowicz, it was a split decision. So I think this is going to be a tough fight. I think Ankalaev is one of the more durable fighters that Alex has ever faced. I'm not sure he's going to be able to knock him out, but yeah, Alex by decision, just based off of common opponents and how I see it kind of shaking out.
Okay, DJ. Now you had a lot of things to say about Alex and being on Alex's side, or everybody being on Alex's side, I should say. Are you on Alex's side for taking home the gold in this one?
I do think he does, and I think he's going to get it with a late round TKO because I think one thing he does very well is he kicks the living you-know-what out of people's legs. We saw what he did to Izzy in both of those fights. He turned him basically into mush. And we saw Ankalaev when he fought Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz had Ankalaev basically doing somersaults because he couldn't stand on his front leg. He was flopping all over the place because he took out his... All he has to do is land like one or two of those. The way he throws it, it's so awkward, but it lands perfectly every damn time. It hits right on the nerve. Your leg goes numb. He's so good at it. And it takes away a lot of the steam from the shots when you can't press off of your legs too. And then it gets Ankalaev stuck in quicksand where Alex could tee off. He's incredibly durable, so I don't think it happens early. But I think over time he could... I'm not going to say get a leg kick TKO because those are very rare. There's like 5 of them in UFC history. But I think he'd do so much damage to where he basically gets Ankalaev down and then he lands a few shots, gets him as a cage, puts on the tornado of fists, and every single one sounds like a gunshot landing off of his head and eventually gets him down. So I'm going to take Pereira by a late 4th, maybe 5th round TKO. I think it will hit the over-under for rounds, which I think is at 1.5.
Okay. All right. By the way, leg TKOs are my favorite thing to get in the UFC video game. Can't lie. I would always, just that's the easiest way to get a victory in that game. So sue me. By the way, whoever wins, you're welcome to come on the show and we'll help promote you through social media. Looking at you, Ankalaev.
Another side quest available for whoever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alex, you're more than welcome. Speaking of side quests, guys, there are a lot of other fights on 313. What is the fight you guys are looking forward to outside of the co-main and the main? Kevin, what's your first one?
I'm going to go with the third fight on the card. I think the Jalen Turner fight's going to be really interesting. He's coming off a loss and very long for the division. I've had high hopes every time I watch him. I'm like, wow, that someone that tall and that long should not be in the lightweight division. And I'm excited to see him rebound off a loss. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay, DJ.
I'm gonna go with the main event of the prelims. We're gonna go with Curtis Blades taking on Rizvan Kuniev, I believe is how it is. I might be butchering his last name, but what's very interesting with this one is we all know Curtis Blades, incredible wrestler to a fault sometimes. Odds, they've kind of shaken up a little bit, but at one point Curtis Blades is actually an underdog, is what it showed. And Rizvan is only 2-0. He's not he's not much of a name at all. He's kind of, I think he might be a short nosed opponent. So I'm very curious what it was with the odds with Curtis Blades and how does Curtis Blades bounce back? 'Cause he's perpetually always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He's always right there for a title shot, then he runs into Francis Ngannou. He's right there about to get a title shot, and then Tom Aspinall sends him to the Shadow Realm. He's right there. He's so close. Derek Lewis stiffens him with an uppercut. He's always right there. I'm curious, is he able to kind of bounce back and see if he has like one last little bit of a run in him? Does he have? Can he make it happen one more time? So that's what I'm curious to see how that one goes because he's still ranked number 5. Heavyweight kind of sucks outside the top 5. If you can get a win streak in the top 5, you got a good shot. So I'm curious if Curtis Blades can do it or if this new guy can kind of pull off a big old surprise here.
Okay. By the way, fun fact: Curtis Blades. Obviously, I talked about the video game. That was the guy I always hated fighting in UFC fight in the UFC games. Somehow, always in the heavyweight class. That's my matchup for the belt every time, and he wrestles me to death. Hated it for every single opportunity I got. All right. So before we move on, I just got to ask: is there another fight that you guys are probably going to be thinking that this is going to win some money in the night? We talked about the co-main, but this is just an alternative. Is there another one out there that you think is winning money? Kevin?
I like Amanda Lemos. I think she's the only underdog that I kind of like on the main card. A year ago about this time she beat Mackenzie Dern. And I think it's kind of a crime to have her as an underdog. So that's where I'm looking to make some extra cash.
Okay. DJ, what about you? DJ's best bet on this one?
I'm going to go with Kevin's earlier pick. Jalen Turner is actually an underdog at plus 105, and he's ranked number 13. I do think he's long, he's explosive, he's dangerous, especially in that weight class. I know his record's a little up and down, but I think with plus odds, I do like his chances now. So I'm going to go with Jalen Turner as the quote-unquote potential upset pick.
All right. There you go. There's some options for me as a degenerate to go make some money. I appreciate it, guys. You might have single-handedly filled my wallet back up, so I appreciate that. Now, moving on to my favorite time of every episode. We're going into crunch time, and DJ, I'm going to let you take the reins back for this one.
Well, crunch time, as we have started doing, there's a lot of courting Kelcey as Kelcey tries to find a new team to replace his beloved Cowboys who've done nothing but hurt him for his entire life. And for the first time in the entire since we started it, we're going to have a live pitch because you know what? It is the Cowboys' most hated rival, the Eagles. So, Kevin, can you turn Kelcey over to the dark side or the light side? Why should he become an Eagles fan?
First, I want to say that I think this is an impossible mission. In division, one of their biggest rivals. But I will say, Kelcey, do you like good football?
Yes.
Do you like watching teams win?
Yes.
Do you like good quarterback play?
God, please give me good quarterback play.
Do you like a running back that's almost an MVP?
Yes, he's my favorite running back in the league. You don't even have to say more.
So the point I'm trying to get across here, when you go through almost every positional spot, the Eagles have better players. So I would think someone who's a football fan would want to watch a team that is good at almost every position. You look at the defense. The Eagles' defense was way better this year. Receiving core, way better. Running back, way better. Offensive line, better. And maybe after last year, people would say that Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts were comparable. Well, now Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl. So you have that amazing team, better at every position than the Cowboys, which I don't need to sell you on that.
No,
and then you add in one of the most loyal fan bases there is that will literally throw batteries at Santa and will defend its team to the end. And the best thing about Philly sports fans is they will hold their team accountable when they're losing. I've never seen a Cowboys crowd at halftime of a losing effort boo them. Eagles fans will do that after the first drive. So I think you'll never become an Eagles fan because you're a Cowboys fan. And I get that. This is a pointless pitch. But if you like good football with a tremendous fan base, I mean, you gotta come over to the Eagles bandwagon. It's time. We just won the Super Bowl.
If you like exciting whites, it's the place to be.
Whoa. All right. I see what you did there. No, I'm not going to comment on that because that's going to get us canceled in a second. But I will say,
okay.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. I was thinking about cheese. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, no, actually, you know what? It's funny. This is my only problem with every little bit of everything you said is that flag. Why does that matter for the Eagles? Well, because literally every good player on the Eagles outside of Saquon is not from a team I enjoy from college, except for Iowa. But that doesn't mean I disagree. I honestly, there's a lot of good things to love about the Eagles, except for the Eagles and the Raptors, not birds. I'll just die on that hill. Anyways, but no, you know what? It's honestly, I don't hate the pitch at all because I do love Jalen. He's easily my favorite my favorite Alabama player of all time. And that's saying something because I thank God he went to Oklahoma, which makes me like him more. But Saquon is my favorite running back in the league. I was happy to see him get a Super Bowl, and Howie Roseman might be the best GM in the league. And I think that's an underselling part of that team. And also, I've always loved their color scheme: the black, the green, the white and silver. And you guys, actually made Tio look good, which congratulations. I don't know how you did that. But yeah, I honestly, I don't hate the Eagles pitch at all. That one definitely lifted them, like, Patriots pitch we had from Kevin back in the day. Same kind of effect. It took them from the dead last up to, well, they're not last anymore. That's for sure. And at this point in time, by the way, we did just come back from AT&T Stadium. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah, definitely enjoyed that. That was good, Kev.
Is there okay? Sorry, I was just gonna say, is there a harder team for someone to pitch than the Eagles?
The
Would the Commanders be number one, or is it the Eagles?
Yeah, the one that's left is the Commanders, but yeah, the Giants pitch was the worst one so far. That's like the hardest sell for me beyond everybody. Even the 49ers, honestly, probably would have been a 49ers fan growing up if when I went to their spring training or preseason practice, if the old man standing next to me getting autographs didn't steal my autograph card with T.O., Jerry Rice, and Steve Young on it. And otherwise, I probably would have been a Niners fan that was starting as a kid. But yeah, so that's probably second on the list of hardest, but the Commanders probably first on the list, most difficult.
It's going to be a rough road ahead, but be sure everyone who's checking in, be sure you want to court Kelcey your team, let us know. Hit us up on social media. Send us your video, 60 to 90 seconds. He's a free agent right now. The Cowboys officially broke his soul there, so there's plenty of room to go somewhere else. So there's plenty of room. Go ahead and send us your pitch. We appreciate you all so much for joining us. Kevin, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It was a pleasure to talk baseball, fisticuffs, and everything with you as well. We appreciate y'all for hanging out with us, and we'll see you all again next week.